There's a certain kind of person who doesn't warm up right away, who watches a room before they enter it, who answers in fewer words than everyone expects, and gets labeled cold, distant, hard to read, long before anyone bothers to ask why. Maybe you've been called this. Maybe you've written someone off because of it. Here's what most people miss. What looks like coldness is usually just a nervous system that processes the world differently. Introverts aren't short on warmth. They're careful with it. There's a difference between someone who has nothing to give and someone who's simply deciding whether this moment, this person, is worth the energy it costs them to open up. Nobody is born believing they're too much or too closed off. Most introverts learned it. They were the quiet kid in a loud classroom, told to speak up, to smile more, to be more like the outgoing ones who got praised for filling every silence. Every time they tried to force themselves into that mold, it cost them something, a kind of exhaustion that talkative people never quite understood. Eventually, they stopped performing warmth for approval and started saving it for people who'd actually earned it. There's real biology behind this. Research on temperament suggests introverts' brains respond more strongly to external stimulation, noise, crowds, small talk, meaning what feels lightly energizing to an extrovert can feel genuinely draining to them. Their nervous system isn't broken, it's just tuned differently, more sensitive, quicker to reach its limit in rooms full of people and noise. That's why introverts often go quiet in groups, not because they dislike the people in them, but because their system is working overtime just to stay regulated. What looks like disinterest is often just self-preservation. People misread this as arrogance or aloofness or not caring enough to engage. It's almost always the opposite. Introverts tend to care intensely, they just don't perform it for an audience. They'll remember the small thing you mentioned once in passing. They'll notice when you're upset before you say a word. They simply don't announce any of it, because for them, meaning doesn't need volume to be real. This reserve wasn't built overnight. It came from years of being overlooked in favor of louder voices, of watching people mistake their silence for having nothing to offer. What they discovered, quietly, is this. You don't have to be loud to be present. Depth doesn't need an audience to be real. Psychologists call this preference for internal processing. Introverts think before they speak, turning ideas over privately instead of thinking out loud. That pause before they respond isn't hesitation, it's consideration. It's why their words, when they finally come, tend to carry more weight because every one of them was chosen, not just released. They also see people differently. Where others perform connection, introverts quietly build it, one real conversation at a time, over years, instead of trying to charm a whole room in a single night. That's why the friendships they do form tend to run deeper and last longer than anyone expects. So the next time you meet someone who seems distant, understand this. They're not withholding because they don't feel. They're deciding who's worth the feeling. Because their calm isn't coldness, it's warmth that refuses to be wasted on rooms that wouldn't know what to do with it.